Squid Game was first written in 2008, and it took the next 11 years for it to be greenlit by any studio. However, although one would think after that it would be smooth sailing for the show, the making of the first season was more difficult than anybody could have imagined. But after its release, it changed the world. And even season 3 of the show, which hasn't even gotten an official release date, is still somehow revolutionizing television. This is why Squid Game shouldn't exist. The story of Squid Games begins in 2007 with Hwang Dong-hyuk making his first ever feature film, My Father. This movie topped the box office in South Korea, but it also faced a ton of backlash. Similar to the semi-recent controversy with like the Dahmer series, the film was an adaptation of a real-life tragedy where there were still real-life victims dealing with what happened. And while making the movie, those victims weren't ever spoken to, which kind of left a scar on the movie and more specifically Hwang Dong-hyuk's reputation in the film space. So with him feeling down because of the public reception of the movie and with him having no money, he found himself lounging in coffee shops reading comic books. And the books happened to be about like survival and gambling, with him specifically citing books like Battle Royale and Liar's Game. And so with Hwang Dong-hyuk dreaming of these scenarios himself because he was just as broke as the contestants, it led to his idea of Squid Game. And so he started writing it and he put everything into this movie. It would eventually turn into a series later down the road, but at the time it was just a feature film. And he was sending the scripts to huge Korean actors trying to get whoever he could involved with this project, but nobody wanted to touch it. Partially because the script was violent and at the time deemed unrealistic, but a large part of the reason nobody wanted to touch the project was because it was attached to Hwang Dong-hyuk. And this sunk the project and left the guy pretty depressed. He was quite literally living with his mom. His mom had to take out loans to support the two. He literally had to sell his laptop to fund the project, but considering he was one laptop short, he couldn't write anymore. Literally, the main character of Squid Game is a self-insert character of himself, and this script was supposed to be his ticket out, but it just failed so incredibly hard. But it didn't stop him. Hwang Dong-hyuk would eventually find his way back to filmmaking in 2011, where he found a lot of success with the film Silence, and then later in 2017 made another film called The Fortress, which was even more well received, but he never forgot about Squid Game. In 2018, after Netflix's CEO Ted Sarandos publicly announced that the company was looking for more overseas productions, the company opened an office in Seoul, South Korea, and what do you know, they found Hwang Dong-hyuk knocking at their door with a script of Squid Games in his hand. Not literally, I was sprinkling in a little hyperbole, but hopefully you get what I mean. But because of the success of films like The Fortress, Netflix was willing to give this guy a shot, but there's a big ol' asterisk on that shot. He had to turn the movie into a 9-part series. Classic Netflix move, especially at the time where they seemed like everything was being turned from a movie to like an extended series, but it proved especially hard for the Squid Game script, with it taking 6 entire months just to rewrite the first 2 episodes, let alone the next 7. However, in 2019, Netflix announced they would be making Squid Game, or what it was called at the time, Round 6. That was a name Netflix was forcing on the show because none executives at the company thought that American audience would understand what Squid Game meant, considering it's a popular game in Korea but like nowhere else. And like honestly, admittedly, that does kind of make a little bit of sense, but it was changed later as So then production got started on the series, and that's when shit got serious. Iconically, because of the sheer stress Hwang Dong-hyuk went through during the making of this show, he lost 9 teeth while filming the first season. For a little bit of perspective, Netflix's first ever original series, House of Cards, which was like just a grounded political series, cost $100 million to make for its first season, spanning over 13 episodes. Squid Games, which is a fantastical, borderline dystopian thriller, was only given $21 million for over 9 episodes. So while House of Cards was spending $5 million an episode following an old man walk down a government hallway, Hwang Dong-hyuk only had $2 million to craft some of the most fantastical series and sets ever put to the platform. The first game, Red Light Green Light, does a very good job of explaining how difficult this entire show was to make. Not only was the main cast there for the entirety of the shooting of that sequence, but there was also 20 martial art actors as extras, and an additional 300 other extras. And on top of that, they were shooting outside using real sunlight, which meant the shadows always had to match, which meant some seriously creative camera work, and according to the cast and crew, the weather was insanely unpredictable, with half the days them needing padding under their outfits to stay warm, and the other half needing PAs to stand by off camera with water because people were getting so quickly dehydrated by how warm it was outside. And this was the beginning of the shoot. Like, this is what they started production with. And not to mention, this is the scene that Hwang Dong-hyuk put the most amount of effort in, because if people didn't buy this sequence, they wouldn't buy the rest of the show. It's hard to express how great of an achievement just getting one episode done on such a shoestring budget was for the cast and crew of this show. But with a director that knows the project inside and out, and a team of artists able to construct sets with a perfect mix of physical and digital assets, they were actually able to finish filming by October 2020. But towards the end of filming, something unique happened that, although was like pretty tragic for the rest of the world, honestly kind of propelled this series into an amount of stardom unheard of. And that was all because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Production was shut down for a month sometime like towards the end of their production. But what's strange is that although the script was initially considered too unrealistic back in 2008, as the years went on, it became more and more feasible, and the COVID-19 pandemic made it ring true more than ever. A script that was once considered too dark or alienating suddenly switched to become the perfect metaphor for our world. And with people stuck in their homes, just depressed as hell, it made the show the perfect escape. When the show premiered in September of 2021, it was quick to become #1 in Korea as expected, but it also became #1 in 94 different countries, including the US and the United Kingdom. Within the first month of airing, it had 1.65 billion hours watched. For comparison, Bridgerton, which cost 8 times the amount of season 1 of Squid Game, coming in at 168 million, only pulled in 625 million hours. Squid Game was more of a success than anybody could have imagined, and everybody was beyond the moon because of the show's reception. Aside from one person, Hwang Dong-hyuk. Netflix is a little bit scummy in their practices with writers and creators, because although they paid Hwang Dong-hyuk a decent amount to get the rights to Squid Game, he got no sort of back-end deal for like the residuals of the success of the show. This meant that while everybody in the world was recognizing him as an artist and a writer and enjoying his work, he reaped in none of the rewards. The only thing he did get from Netflix was a thumbs up to go ahead and make season 2 of the show, which was honestly as much of a blessing as it was a curse. This had been the guy's passion project for over a decade, and he got it done. But once it was out and everybody loved it, he was kind of done with it. And you can't really blame the guy. He was literally losing his teeth because of how much this show was stressing him out. So he would go on to write seasons 2 and 3 back to back. It's not that he lost any passion as like an artist or filmmaker. He wasn't phoning it in by any means. Season 2 began production in August of 2023, which meant it took a good 2 years for Hwang Dong-hyuk to make the script for Squid Game season 2. However, it wasn't just season 2. The production did something practically unheard of in the industry and shot seasons 2 and 3 simultaneously. To give you an understanding of how big of an undertaking that is, this is what Marvel tried to do with Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame. However, once they started planning it out, although it would mean that technically Endgame would get out quicker, it was just simply too difficult to shoot both like that. So instead they chose to shoot them back to back with like a month break in between, but not Squid Game. They had no breaks and shot seasons 2 and 3 as if they were one huge season, which means the turnaround time for season 3 will be so fast. Like currently, as of recording this video, they are deep into post-production on season 3 already. And this is all because when Hwang Dong-hyuk was writing season 2, he had 10 episodes, which he thought was honestly too long for a season of TV, which I don't 100% understand why that would be too long, but whatever. So instead, he took the final 3 episodes of the season and stretched them out to make an entire new season 3. But no TV show has ever done something like this before. And in today's current entertainment landscape, it seems honestly impossible. Here we are waiting practically decades in between seasons of Stranger Things, but Squid Games, although the wait for season 2 was admittedly pretty long, will be getting us a final season in less than a year most likely. Additionally, Hwang Dong-hyuk made some big leaps for like creators at Netflix because they fixed his pay. It's unclear how much he ended up getting compared to the first season, but a big reason as to why he came back was that he felt like it was the only way he could make any sort of generational wealth by, like upping all of his demands to make the next seasons. And so this is why Squid Game shouldn't exist. From its inception, the odds were always against the creator. The whole concept of the show started because Hwang Dong-hyuk had the world playing against him, but he never gave up, and it literally led to the entire world recognizing his work, and honestly changing the landscape of streaming forever. Even when the show became a success, Hwang Dong-hyuk was still having to defy the odds, and because here I am talking about it, most likely so are several other people across the world. Even when the show became a success, Hwang Dong-hyuk was still having to defy the odds, and because of that, I love this show, but knowing its roots and how much of an underdog story it truly is makes me love this franchise even more. I am sure there are several bits and anecdotes of the making of this show that I didn't cover in this video, so if there is one bit of information that I didn't talk about, please go ahead and just blurt it down in the comments down below. Alright, that's it for this week. Subscribe for more. Thank you.